My name is Sarah, I'm 30 years old today. The story I intend to tell you happened when I started university with my back in the day best friend Diana. We were 19 years old at the time. We have been best friends since middle school. And like almost every excellent friendship story, we started by hating each other. I thought she was pretentious and an attention seeker, and she thought I was too closed and hard to talk to. One day, we got to talking when one of the teachers sent us to the principal's office. Mr. Dean, and we realized that we had wrong ideas about each other and so much in common. Since that day, we were inseparable. We used to do sleepovers, go to school together, grab lunch together. We kept it that way until we graduated high school. We both chose business as a field of study. Our grades were not very different, and neither were our personalities, so when we started contacting universities, we were accepted into the same ones. We chose one in another city and decided to rent an apartment and become roommates. We found one very nice and affordable apartment very close to the university. We took it and started redesigning it our way. We were so happy that we were finally able to do all the crazy things we wanted without being supervised. The first month went by, and everything was great. We were having so much fun. Until one night when we cooked dinner at night and made a movie to watch together. Diana, as always, fell asleep during the first 10 minutes of the movies, while I was up laughing at her and taking videos of her snoring to send to our friends and have something to laugh at tomorrow. While I was responding to one of the friends I sent the video to, I turned around to see, to my big surprise, Diana staring at me, with her eyes wide open, breathing heavily. I got scared but started laughing, telling her that she can stop that and that I wasn't scared. But she was not responsive. The situation got scarier and I stopped laughing and asking her to stop what she was doing. Then starts blabbering something I couldn't understand. One thing was sure though, that was a man's voice. I stood up and turned the lights on, to find her asleep again. I was freaked out, but I tried to convince myself that it was just a dream or a hallucination. The next morning, I asked Diana about it, but she had no memory of what happened. She just shrugged it off, saying that she must have been sleep-talking or something. But things didn't stop there. As the weeks went by, we started experiencing more strange occurrences. We would hear strange noises at night, like footsteps in the hallway. And doors would open and close on their own. One time, Diana woke up in the middle of the night to find that her jewelry box had been moved to the other side of the room. We both tried to ignore it, but it was getting harder and harder to do so. One night, I woke up to find that my bed was shaking violently. I looked over at Diana's bed, and she was fast asleep, not even noticing what was happening. That was the final straw for me. I told Diana that we needed to get out of that apartment immediately. It wasn't until we stumbled upon an old newspaper article in the local library that we finally learned the truth. We found out that the building we were living in used to be a mental hospital in the 1930s. It got caught up on fire one day due to unknown reasons, and many patients couldn't make it out and were burnt alive. There had been reports of strange noises and unexplained occurrences after the incident, but no one had been able to explain them. That same day, we went to do some investigating of our own. We knocked on a few doors, but no one answered. We even tried to peek through the peephole of one of the neighboring apartments, but all we could see was darkness. It was as if no one else lived in the building except for us. We started to feel a sense of unease. What if something had happened to all of our neighbors? What if we were all alone in this building? It was a scary thought, but it also provided some explanation for the strange occurrences we had been experiencing. I dialed the phone number the owner gave us. But no one responded. I looked at Diana, who was starting to enjoy this. She started describing how fun it is to live in a haunted house and that it would be a great story to tell later. We were young and stupid. Stupid enough to think that she was right and to decide that we should stay since these spirits have hurt us. As the days went by, we started to notice more and more strange things happening in the apartment. Objects would move by themselves, we heard footsteps and whispers in the hallway when no one was there. And we even saw shadows moving in the corners of our eyes. Despite all of this, we refused to leave. We were too stubborn and too convinced that we could handle it. Plus, we had already paid the rent, and we couldn't afford to move out and find a new place. But things only got worse from there. One night, we were both in the living room watching TV when we heard a loud bang coming from the kitchen. We got up to investigate and found that all the cabinets and drawers had been opened and their contents had been thrown all over the floor. That night, Diana and I had a small argument as to whether or not should we stay here, since we decided to stay as long as nobody got hurt. She insisted that we should stay and that these spirits were feeding on our fear. And as long as we were strong and fearless, nothing would harm us. The next day, Diana woke me up early in the morning, telling me that there is a scar on her arm as if someone scratched her arm to hurt her. I was freaking out, but not her. I started realizing that no one in their right mind would put themselves in this harm's way just because they want a story to tell later. Days went on, and there was always something new happening in the apartment every day. One day, Diana was visiting her sick mom in our hometown and I was staying home alone. I was seeing someone, but the exact day he wasn't staying with me. We were talking about us and wanted to send him a voice message to explain something better. It was a serious matter we were discussing, but when he heard my voice message, the first thing he said was, "Who is with you?" A long time ago, I would have laughed at this question. But given the circumstances, I got creeped out. I told him that nobody is there with me. I never told him about what's happening in the apartment because I didn't want him to be scared or think that I'm crazy, so he got suspicious and thought I was having someone over or cheating on him. I played my voice note again to see what he was talking about, and besides my voice, there was a very deep man's voice blabbering something. I was terrified and didn't know what to do. I wasn't wearing much, so I grabbed my clothes, phone and keys and ran outside. I was getting dressed on the street trying to call my boyfriend. He was not picking up at first, but I kept calling. When he finally did, he heard my crying and asked me what was happening. I told him that something happened in the house and if I could spend the night at his place. My boyfriend agreed to let me stay at his place for a few nights while I figured out what to do about our apartment. I was scared to go back, but at the same time, I didn't want to abandon all of our belongings and the life we had built there. I decided to call a paranormal investigator to come and check out the apartment while I stayed at my boyfriend's place. The investigator arrived a few days later and went into the apartment alone, equipped with various instruments to detect paranormal activity. The paranormal investigator suggested that we try to communicate with the spirits and see if we could find out what they wanted. He set up some equipment in the apartment and we started asking questions. To our surprise, the spirits responded. Through the use of EVPs and other equipment, we were able to communicate with the spirits of the patients who had died in the fire. They told us that they were not happy with our presence there and that we should leave the place. We all agreed that it was going to be dangerous to stay there any longer, all of us except Diana. She begged me to stay one more week. If any other occurrence happens, we would leave immediately. I agreed to her begging, but I didn't spend much time there. I was practically living with my boyfriend that week. One day, during lunchtime, I went to the apartment to pick up some of my books. I got in and felt something weird. I started calling for Diana but she wasn't answering, which was weird since we agreed that we would meet there. I went to her room, only to find her literally floating on her bed, completely irresponsive. I called my boyfriend in panic and he came with a priest in less than 20 minutes. We tied her to the bed following the priest's orders while he was getting ready to perform an exorcism. He asked us to wait outside. And after few hours of screaming and agitation, there was a brief calm before the priest came out. Exhausted, he told us that she got possessed by a poltergeist that took full control of her body. The exorcism could liberate her body from that spirit, but he advised us against staying in the apartment. After Diana woke up, she found out that my boyfriend and I have packed everything for us to move out. She didn't mind. Diana and I are not very close anymore. But every now and then we meet in a coffee when we are in the same town but never bring up that story. Funny, since she wanted a story to tell so bad.